Let's get it on then, shall we? Mwah. Welcome to Sex on the Peach, your weekly hump day dose of everyone's favourite untalked about topic, sex. Let's get honest, let's get open, let's get comfortable, and let's get into this week's show. Friends, lovers, listeners, happy Wednesday, happy hump day, and happy Sex on the Peach Day. It is sexy, sketty September, which means it's almost 2 years since Sex on the Peach started, which is pretty wild to me because where has that time gone? And people often ask me if I think I'll run out of things to talk about, as if that is ever even a slight possibility for me. I am truly convinced if I was kidnapped, they would end up strongly regretting it because they'd be like, shut the actual fuck up. So in all seriousness, no, because sex, as with everything else, is always moving forward. New conversations are always happening. New trends will always be occurring, whether good or bad, but they'll be worth discussing. So I'm not going anywhere anytime soon, alas. You'll have many more seasons to endure of me yet. And as for today, we are going to be talking about sexual confidence. And ironically, this episode was due to be released last Wednesday, but keeping it real, I recorded the entire episode, felt like it was complete shit, and then deleted the whole thing and ran away on a cruise ship for the week. Between Italy, China, Amsterdam, it's giving Sex on the Peach worldwide, but I'm back now and you've got me solidly for the next 3 weeks. But yes, I had my own confidence crisis about this episode, and this podcast is probably the only thing I have confidence crises about because it's so important to me to put content out there that I feel is helpful and worthwhile. And of all the factors that impact our sexual satisfaction, one of the most crucial is our sexual confidence. And that's not just in regards to recognizing our own desirability, but also knowing and believing that what we bring to a sexual encounter will be valued by our sexual partner or partners. And society doesn't make it easy for us to be confident, especially women and vulva owners, because it operates in a way that if it continues to belittle our confidence, if it keeps us insecure, then it keeps us where it wants us, which is easier to manipulate and easier to control. And we aren't fucking doing that anymore. As I've said so many times, the amount of horrendous comments I get from people about this podcast, about being a woman who speaks openly about sex and pleasure, a woman who is sexually confident, whether that's low value woman, run through feminist hoe, apparently no one will ever want to touch me. Sure. But it's all designed to break me down a little bit so that maybe I'll stop talking about sex. Maybe I'll stop prioritizing my pleasure. Maybe I'll just settle for whatever a sexual partner offers with no feedback for the sake of their own ego so they don't have to put in any work and they can go on believing they're an accomplished lover. I mean, does that really sound like something I'm gonna do? So I would suggest go troll someone else because you are only wasting your own precious time, which is something I'm actually going to circle back to very shortly. But if your instinct is to shame someone else for their own sexual confidence, then it's time for you to stop and take a long, hard look at why you want to do that. Because I won't stop talking about it. The information needs to be out there because society doesn't want us to be educated. Because the more informed we are, the more we are able to fight back against the things we've been indoctrinated into that just aren't fucking right. So I won't stop educating myself and I won't stop informing others with what I continue to learn. And I've actually worked really hard to cultivate what I would consider to be at this point quite an unshakable sense of self-confidence. And feeling informed and feeling educated plays a huge part in that. And I want that for you too, because empowered people want to empower others. If people want to bring you down, if people want to rock your confidence, that's a them problem. A small disclaimer, that doesn't mean no one can ever call you out on your bullshit if you need to be held accountable for acting like a shitty human, FYI. We'll get into this, but confidence comes from owning your whole self, not just the favourable bits and pretending your mistakes and discrepancies don't happen. And there is such power in owning those sides of yourself also. So, shame is out, self-esteem is in. Just think about how we are taught from the get-go to be embarrassed, to be ashamed of our sexual prowess to the point that if we have an overnight hookup, we are expected to call the following morning the walk of shame. No, we're flipping the switch. It's a stride of pride here. So, let's get into it for today. Here is less fucks given, better fucks received. Okay, so when I say less fucks given, I'm talking about what those around you think, what society thinks, what faceless accounts on Instagram think. Your worth, your validity, your beauty, your sexuality, your sensuality as a human, they are not determined by another person or by a system or by a social media account. They are determined by you. And I don't know if this will help, but I'm going to talk about my journey to self-confidence. And I think that people who know me well would agree. I'm a confident person. I am secure in who I am. And that is because contrary to what the world would like from all of us, I quite simply like myself. I know what I bring to a table. I also know what I can learn from other people at the table. I was personally brought up as an only child to appreciate my own light, but also to appreciate the light of others and that we all shine differently. And therefore, I was raised in a way that didn't view others as competition or as threats. And I do think that made things easier. I didn't even have siblings to compare against, so maybe that played into things too. But I do find it easy to feel confident and secure, even in rooms where society might deem the other people in that room to be more attractive or more desirable than me in any way. Because I think we all know by now, I couldn't give a flying fuck what society has to say about pretty much anything. And the quicker we unpack all of that nonsense and just work on ourselves, the happier we will all be. I appreciate the beauty in other people. And I mean that in an all-encompassing sense, not in the aesthetic. Although, listen, I will always be envious of people who have naturally very thick hair. I'm only human. But beyond that, I own every single part of myself, whether they are considered the good parts or the flaws or whatever. I don't love the word flaw because it makes our qualities seem so binary as right or wrong. And to me, that trivializes how complex we are as whole-ass humans, but whatever. Let's just say the parts of me that are messy, that makes mistakes. Sometimes I can be a snappy little bitch. Sometimes I make terrible decisions, but it's all part of it. And owning it all, being self-aware, being honest with myself, it makes it so much easier to be secure and to be confident. And I think people often confuse confidence with arrogance, with an attitude of being like, I'm great. Whereas for me, confidence is simply a complete form of acceptance of who I am and also complete comfort within that. Whether it's parts of myself that I'm happy with or parts that I still feel need some guidance or growth. Like, I'm someone who has had my generosity taken advantage of many, many times by partners, by friends, by other people in my life in one way or another, because I always trust that people will act respectfully and decently if I have been generous with my time or my finances or my kindness. And I have been let down in such extreme and savage ways so many times. And every single time I say to myself, fuck it, I'm not giving as much anymore because people don't deserve it. But I realized the other day that actually I don't do that. I continue to behave the same, which is, I suppose, a disappointing cycle, but concluding that it's a side of myself that probably isn't going to change, and therefore accepting it's a hurt that I'm likely to go through again, that felt weirdly freeing, rather than the pretense of no one will ever have access to me again that I put up every time it happens. And it just felt like I got to know myself better, and I'm now able to own it as part of me. In the same way, I tell myself every time I'll never involve myself with another MT boy, height 5'10", 5'11", but I know I will, probably like tomorrow, because I love you. I'm obsessed with you. Anyway, I jest. But basically, every time I own another part of myself, it all gets easier in terms of confidence and self-esteem. I'm not afraid of making mistakes, and you'll have to go back to season 1 for the details on this because we do not have time today. But I think specifically owning and holding myself accountable for having an affair really shifted things for me, because it's so considered one of the most shameful things you can do. That's a whole topic of its own. But when you openly own things that society demonizes so heavily, it almost, in its own weird way, takes off the pressure to be some perfect person that we're all expected to be. Because, yeah, I fucked up. Guess I'm not perfect then. If anyone has seen the Black Mirror episode Nosedive about social media, it kind of feels like that. But also, because of that event, I learned to communicate and to stop shutting things away and hoping they would get better. I learned to accept parts of myself that I hadn't previously known were there. If I'd hidden away and pretended I didn't do the big bad thing, maybe I wouldn't have learned all of those things. Maybe I'd still be trying to live up to this made-up level of perfection that apparently doesn't require us to learn better, because we're all pretending we already know. COVID was also a huge, huge turning point for me. We all got to spend a lot of time with ourselves. And while it can be argued that I was never really someone who cared about what other people think all that much, this just became a whole new level. And I had tried to voice my thoughts on monogamy, not needing to be the default relationship structure so many times, and been shut down my entire life. And so I thought maybe I was the problem. But having time to sit with those thoughts, to educate myself, it allowed me to come out and say with absolute confidence that I don't think monogamy always has to be for me. And I would like my personal relationships to be more fluidly discussed rather than just defaulting to that. And of course, the backlash still happens. I just don't care anymore. And that's because I can actually own it as part of myself. And I know that I am living authentically. And I have also chosen to live a very honest life. I've always hated lies more than anything anyway. And I think dishonesty is where all of the real deceit happens. But I still played into it every now and again, out of fear or out of shame, or just out of not knowing how to communicate the absolute truth. But the second I decided to live 100% honestly, with no pretense, with no concern that my own actions and decisions aren't going to come and bite me on the ass, again, everything got so much easier. And knowing that I'm living genuinely and honestly makes it so much easier to feel confident and secure in myself because it's real. And if people don't like me or take to me, at least they really don't like me and not some fake version that isn't true. Another factor is that I also, shock horror, do not want the way that I look, my face, or my body to be the most important or interesting thing about me. And that massively plays into things because although we all, of course, have days where we might feel better or worse about ourselves from a physical attractiveness point of view, I know I can always come back to who I am as a person. And to me, that is so much more important and also so much more attractive. And as a result, I like the way I look. When I look in the mirror, I'm happy. And yes, I'm confident in my face, in my body, not in my hair, but we move. And I know it's like the biggest fucking insult to society for a woman to actually like the way she looks. But sucks to be fucking you, society, because I do. And I want all women to know they have permission to feel that way. And that permission only comes from you. Obviously, this goes for everyone, not just women and vulva owners. It goes for all gender identities, but I'm just specifying women and vulva owners because we've always been at the mercy of the patriarchy and always made to feel like we have to belittle ourselves for our looks, and we're just not going to be doing it anymore. But all that being said, I will be damned if when I die, the best thing people have to say about me is that I was pretty. And that kind of brings me to my last point. And this is probably going to feel extremely rogue, but it massively plays into my self-confidence. So I have an absolutely innate fear of death. Like, it's pretty wild. And when I was a child, it was quite paralyzing. But as I have grown, this fear actually informs my choice to live on my own terms, because I'm like, if this is it, if this is our one shot, then fuck it. I'm doing it my way, and fuck what anyone else thinks, to be quite honest. That doesn't mean you can be a disrespectful piece of shit and destroy other people for your own sake, by the way. That's not what I'm talking about when I say this. So I don't want my words to be twisted. But if I want to exist in a relationship structure that is unconventional, but is consensual, respectful, loving, then fuck it, I'm doing it. If I want to wear clothing that resembles nightwear all day, every day, then fuck it, I'm doing it. Sponsor me for Love and Lemons. If I want to talk openly about taboo sexual topics in a public space, then fuck it, I am doing it. It all also informs the fact that I do not want to be controlled by a partner ever again, as I have been in the past. I don't want to live my life on terms imposed by someone else. And I don't want to impose terms on a partner also. I want them to live a life that they are happy with and make decisions that are authentic to them. And all of this allows me now to love without attachment. All of this shit plays into it. And I know that might all sound a bit off cuff, that my fear of death informs my confidence and therefore my sexual confidence, but there you go. It does. Because what even is life? We're literally just fooling around on some floating planet, and I'm supposed to worry about what Dave Clark 789632 has to say about me on Instagram. I'm just not going to live my life for the sake of other people liking me, because I like me. And I mean, I started giving it sketty from my mid-teens, and that is not what people or society wanted from women at that time. It was very woman hoe, man player era. So I started facing this shit easily half my life ago. And I decided even then to embrace it, because I liked sex. And why was I going to dampen that for someone else? I mean, I liked sex even though I didn't know what the flying fuck I was doing. And yes, I was called a slut. And yes, I was called a whore. And I mean, honestly, thank goodness I was called a sket, because we all know how that turned out. But who the fuck cares? Okay, I'm a slut then. I'm a whore. I'm a sket. Now what? Okay. They all mean a woman who enjoys sex, a woman who is promiscuous. So sure, I accept your terms. What do you want now? Exactly. It means nothing. And I cannot tell you how freeing it is to lose those shackles of what is expected of you from society, from other people, from your family, your friends, because they should want you to live your life authentically. Since when did our love for people become based on their sexual activity? Like, what in the creepy as hell fuck is that? Why is love or respect conditional on us gatekeeping how many people we can all have sex with, or what we are sexually into or interested in? It's like every time I see an OnlyFans girl post on social media and people respond with fatherless behaviour. What does that mean? Can people not see how weird and gross that is? Like, dads do not exist to gatekeep what their daughters do sexually. That's actually so fucking sick. And every time I see someone write that, I'm like, you are so problematic. Don't bring people's dads into this. Where does that response even come from? Oh, a woman likes sex. What a problem for her dad. Also, sorry to break this to you, but in the vast majority of cases, that person's dad had sex with a woman for that daughter to even exist. So the dad knows what sex is. He's had it too. So clearly he thinks it's okay. So make it make sense, because the math ain't mathing. And I always steer away from labelling things as weird or whatever. But actually, this idea that a dad has the right to own his daughter's sexual behaviour is actually perverse and, to be honest, fucking gross. And if a man is promiscuous, we don't see people out there saying motherless behaviour. And I can clarify, I have both a dad and a stepdad and wonderful relationships with both of them. And neither of them give a flying fuck that I talk about sex on the internet. But at the same time, they wouldn't choose to listen to this podcast because actually my sex life is nothing to do with them and none of their goddamn business. And they would say the same thing. So get your shit together and leave people's dads alone. You shouldn't be worrying about what your dad would be thinking about your sex life because your dad shouldn't be thinking about you sexually. It's, oh my God, it's all one huge no. Anyway, as per usual, I digress. My point stands though. Stop trying to abide by omnipresent societal rules or by Instagram comments on rules that literally don't even exist. If this is your one life to experience sex and pleasure, then don't you want that to be the best that it can be? Don't you want to be true to your own desires? And being confident in sex is nothing to do with someone thinking you are good or bad. Those terms shouldn't even exist because sex is not a binary experience. And as we say at Sex on the Peach, it's a collaboration, not a performance. Being a collaborative and as a result, a more pleasurable lover comes from communication, from attentiveness, from knowing your own body, from willingness to learn your partner's bodies. The physical acts within sex are a product of all of those things. You have to not be afraid to get things wrong because things will go awry. Sex is messy and silly because really, what the fuck are we all doing? And once again, there is so much freedom in those moments of imperfection. It takes the pressure off. It humanizes the experience, but it is a journey. And if it helps, there is a bit of mine and what plays into feeling confident and secure as a person for me and therefore in my sexual relationships. And that doesn't mean that I will have fantastic sex forever with everyone I have sex with, because sometimes people are just not sexually compatible. I come across people now, knowing everything I do, that I'm just not sexually compatible with. And that's life. We have to look at it, own it, and move forward. But every time someone owns themselves and feels liberated and empowered as a sexual being, it gives permission for other people to do so also. And if there is one thing I could give anyone listening today, it would be the courage to embrace yourself unapologetically. Because when you own your desires, your confidence, and your worth, you not only transform your own life, but you encourage others to do the same. And I did run a poll on Instagram to ask if people feel sexually confident. And out of 613 votes, 27% said, hell yes, 35% said a little bit, and 38% said not at all. So that gives us something to work with, because 73%, so 449 people of those who voted, thrilled to get to use my maths degree, aren't feeling full sexual confidence. So for today, here are 10 tips that I hope will help with that. And I will try and keep it concise because otherwise this is going to be 10 hours long. But first up, sort out your inner dialogue. Because to feel good in the bedroom, you've got to start by feeling good about yourself. And the way we talk to ourselves is so powerful, way more powerful than the external validation of others. If you are always tearing yourself down, it's going to affect how you feel about everything. especially intimacy. And the first step is to catch yourself in the act of negative self-talk, because when you become aware of those harsh negative thoughts, whether it's a judgment about your appearance, a criticism of your actions, or just a feeling of inadequacy, it's important to pause and take a step back. Ask yourself, is this thought helpful? Or is it just a reflection of my inner critic? And that will help you evaluate whether the thought is constructive or if it's a self-deprecating pattern that doesn't serve you. Because often our negative thoughts are automatic and rooted in old beliefs or societal pressures, and they don't accurately reflect reality. And by questioning them, you are creating a space to challenge them and reassess their validity. For the longest time, because of the big bad thing, the affair, anytime I received bad treatment in a relationship, because I went on to be in a heavily abusive relationship, I would tell myself I deserved it because of the big bad thing I did in the past. And that was my cycle of negative thinking. And it took me a long time to break free from that, because I convinced myself I wasn't deserving of anything good. I wasn't deserving of being treated with kindness or respect or love because I had made a mistake. I had not lived up to the standards that were expected of me. So it's tough because that is delusional. That is not accurate. So if you think I'm not good enough, pause and consider where that thought is coming from. Is it based on a past failure? Or is it based on a fear that you are not measuring up to unrealistic standards? And once you've identified that negative thought, you can choose to frame it differently. Instead of accepting a critical thought as fact, you can reframe it into something more supportive and empowering. So if you think I'm not good enough, you can shift it to I've handled challenges before and I can handle this too. And by regularly practicing that kind of mindful questioning, as I had to, you can gradually break the cycle of negative self-talk, and that allows you to build a more balanced and positive inner dialogue, which is a huge step towards boosting your self-confidence. And I would love to challenge everyone listening today to take a moment this week to stand in front of the mirror, and instead of focusing on what you don't like, which we are so conditioned to do, find something you do. Maybe you don't love how you look today, but instead of getting stuck there, shift your focus. Think, you know what? My eyes are gorgeous, or my legs are fucking strong and they keep me moving. And it sounds simple, but I love a pep talk. And in my opinion, the little pep talks can totally change the game. Literally start telling yourself things like, I'm fucking hot. I fucking got this. Because we need to start balancing those insecurities that we all have with some solid self-love. And that isn't about vanity. It's just about changing your mindset and starting to acknowledge what you actually like about yourself. Another helpful thing to do is to celebrate your achievements, no matter how small. Did you handle a difficult conversation today? Did you tackle something that you were dreading doing? Give yourself credit for those victories. That habit will help to shift your mindset towards a more positive self-view. And it's basically all about treating yourself with the same kindness and encouragement that you would offer to a close friend, or that a close friend would offer to you. And over time, if you consistently practice self-appreciation, you will start to notice a shift. So next time you catch yourself spiraling into negative self-talk, please, for me, pause and flip the script. Because positive affirmations, little sexy pep talks, they will build up your self-confidence and they will build up your sexual confidence too. Because it's not just about how you look, it's all about how you feel on the inside. And that kind of brings me to number 2, which is it's time to start accepting and loving your body. And I don't know that I'm always massively here for all the body positivity stuff, because I think it also puts a lot of pressure on people to feel positive. And sometimes that can be a bit toxic in its own way. What I would love people to move towards is body neutrality, which is feeling very comfortable in your own body in a way that doesn't make it the focal point of you, because it's not the most important thing about you. Our bodies are beautiful. Our bodies carry us through life. They are our home. So we need to feel comfortable in them and have so much love for them. But also, our bodies as an aesthetic point of view do not need to be the be-all and end-all of us. So yes to body positivity, but also yes to body neutrality if you feel that body positivity is too far out of your reach, which I can also empathize with, especially if you've lived however many years on this earth being told that your body isn't good enough because of XYZ. It is good enough, and I want us all to love our bodies, but I think there's a lot of pressure now to be positive about something that we've been taught to be negative about for what feels like fucking infinity. So another thing I would love for you all to do for me this week is giving homework. Apologies for that, but I would love you to stand in front of the mirror, naked, fully naked, and appreciate your body for what it is. And that is probably going to feel really awkward at first, but it's a very powerful step towards showing yourself kindness and accepting your uniqueness and your beauty. And I'm not a particularly naked person. I've spoken about this a lot on the podcast, and I am comfortable and secure in my body. I just like wearing things, especially during sex. I don't really like naked sex. I like an element of mystery, so I like bits to be covered up and not everything to be all bare and out there. So I'm not the most naked of people, but you do need to own your own naked body, and how attractive you feel is going to directly impact how much you enjoy intimacy. So the more confident and comfortable you can feel in your own skin, the better. And I try to bring it back to this again. Try and see yourself the way a good friend would, with compassion and with love. They would point out all the great things about you that you might overlook. So start doing that for yourself. Because if you think about the people you love, you don't think about where they might hold weight or cellulite or stretch marks or all these things that we've been taught are negative, when actually they are all beautiful. They are all part of our skin, of our life, of our movement. They are gorgeous things, and they've been made a problem so that the beauty industry can profit off them. That is it. There is nothing wrong with your cellulite. There is nothing wrong with your stretch marks. There is nothing wrong with your skin pigmentation. None of these things are a problem. None of these things are a negative. They are all beautiful and make you who you are. We have been taught and indoctrinated to believe that anything other than a Barbie doll is a problem, because then the huge corporations that make beauty products can make money off of us. So I know that's a bit of a tangent, and I know that might sound boring, but please do remind yourselves of that. Every time you talk badly to your own body, you are basically just buying into capitalism. That's it. The least sexy I have ever felt was when I was at my absolute thinnest, and probably when society would have championed my body the most. People would say, "How do you stay so thin?" And I was like, because I'm fucking miserable. So I can promise you, thinness does not equate to confidence, because I was the least sexually confident I have ever been in my life when I was at my most thin. It's all bullshit. Stop buying into it. And again, think about what you think about your friends, your loved ones, your partners. You don't care about that stuff. You look at them and you see beauty. You see them as the whole beautiful person they are. And you owe that to yourself too. And of course, there are things you can do to help with that. Like wear clothes that make you feel good. Who gives a fuck about trends? Whatever is a trend today will be gone tomorrow anyway. And I'm sure people don't love the fact that basically everything I wear is nightwear. Every dress I own is basically a lingerie night dress hybrid. Sponsor me for Love and Lemons. But I don't care because I like it. Wear things that make you feel happy when you look in the mirror, because that is a damn sight more important than what anyone else thinks anyway. Fashion is subjective. There's literally no right or wrong. Also, exercise is a fantastic tool. And I don't mean that in terms of weight loss or staying fit. I mean it in the respect of lifting your mood and improving how you see yourself, because it literally releases feel-good hormones and endorphins. So whether that's running or yoga or whatever you enjoy, I promise that moving your body is going to make you feel better in it. And when those endorphins hit, that confidence naturally spills over into your sex life. Embrace being naked more often to get used to your body and boost your comfort with it. And that might feel a bit awkward at first, but I promise you, getting comfortable with your body can make a big difference in how you feel about it, because we can get used to only seeing our naked bodies in a sexual sense. And when there's that pressure on it to be on the sexual pedestal, that can make bodies and nakedness feel overwhelming, when actually, if we spend more time with our naked body, we once again normalize and humanize it. And then the thought of being naked in front of another person in a sexual way doesn't seem quite so intimidating. And on that same note, lingerie. I fucking love lingerie, even if it's just for you. Slipping into something that makes you feel sexy, that hugs your curves in all the right ways, even wearing it under your everyday clothes can give you a secret boost of self-confidence. And I'm a big fan of having lingerie on in the house. I don't care if people think that's embarrassing or cringy. Get the mood lighting on, put on a sexy playlist, light some candles, throw on some lingerie and just make yourself hot. You can literally sex yourself up and it's great. I do it all the time. If you are feeling especially good, take some photos. They don't have to be for anyone other than yourself, so that you can look at them on a day when you're not feeling so great and be like, no, fuck this, I am sexy. The more you get used to nakedness and the more you get used to wearing things that make you feel sexy, the more it all becomes for you and less about for other people. And so when you approach a sexual encounter, you're already so comfortable with your body that it's no big deal. And of course they're going to fucking love your body because you love your body. Do not put the power into someone else's hands of whether or not to love your own body. Your body is your power. It is yours to love and others to appreciate. And a way to make that easier leads me to number 3, which is to learn your body, because so many of us don't. And why are we so afraid of our own bodies when we are happy to get to know other people's? So it's giving more homework. But if this is something that you haven't already done, it's getting a little personal. Take some time to get familiar with your own anatomy. If you're going to look at other people's, look at your own. Grab a mirror, find a private space, and take a good look at your genitals. Knowing what you look like can be incredibly empowering, and since for women and vulva owners, most orgasms are clitoral, spend some time getting to know that area so that you can guide your partners to that area. Understanding your body is only going to help you help your partner find all of those sweet spots. And this is a common struggle because we feel a lot of shame and anxiety when it comes to sex. And those feelings really hold people back from exploring new experiences. But the game changer is to shift from that self-criticism to curiosity. And by doing that, you are going to open up a whole new world of sexual satisfaction. So let go of the anxiety and let go of the shame that you probably feel at the thought of getting a mirror and looking at your genitals, because that is key to breaking free from these rigid expectations that we all place on ourselves when it comes to sex. And when you just embrace your body as a source of curiosity, you give yourself permission to experiment and find out what really works for you, whether that is trying out new fantasies, exploring different types of intimacy, or being more adventurous in the bedroom. So start getting curious about your bodies and about what feels good. And that's not about being perfect. It's about discovering what truly turns you on. So you're also going to find things that don't turn you on, but experiment with different sensations, with different positions, with different activities, because the more in tune you are with your own pleasure, the better you can communicate that to your sexual partners. So stop letting anxiety over your own body, your home, dictate your experiences. Start embracing that curious mindset. And obviously, you know I'm obsessed with masturbation, but it is such a powerful tool for self-discovery. You can explore your own body, you learn what really turns you on, you can try different techniques, different speeds, different pressures to see what feels best. You can mix up your routine, you can uncover new sensations, just get to know your body better. Set the mood, have a bath, again, light some candles, give yourself a massage with some really nice oil. If you want to, add sex toys into the mix. You know I'm a huge fan. Vibrators, clitoral suction toys. They can all bring new layers of pleasure and help you explore different kinds of stimulation. So embrace this curiosity of becoming best friends with your own body and let that guide you to a more confident sexual life. And I cannot tell you how empowering it is to go into a sexual encounter knowing the ins and outs of your body and being able to direct a sexual partner with absolute confidence to what feels good. That is going to be one of the key things to make you feel confident in the sexual space, in every encounter that you go into with a new sexual partner. Not even new, you might be 6 months in with someone and realize, actually, this is something I've discovered in my solo time with myself and it feels really good. So now I'd like you to try that with me. The more you know about your body, the more you can share with your sexual partners. And that just makes your intimate experiences so much better. It's all about being in tune with yourself. So please go ahead, take some time to explore. Because when you know what makes you feel good, you're not just boosting your own confidence, you are literally setting the stage for a more satisfying, intimate life with every person you have sex with. So please stop getting to know other people's bodies better than you even know your own. You owe yourselves better than that. Number 4 is be present. And I think this one is so important. And I always say that present is one of the 3 words I would use to describe my sexual personality, because I think actually being in the moment makes such a fucking difference. So let's talk about the power of mindfulness in the bedroom, because it can take your sexual experiences to a whole new level. When your mind is racing with worries or distractions, you miss out on all of the sensations that are happening in the right here, right now. But by practicing mindfulness, by practicing being present, you can absolutely enhance your enjoyment. And it's just a case of tuning into the physical sensations, focusing on the touch or the texture of your sexual partner's skin. Notice how their touch feels. Is it warm? Is it cool? Is it soft? Is it firm? And if your mind starts to wander, gently bring it back to these sensory details, because this kind of awareness can make every touch feel more intense and more pleasurable. And it just helps you stay present. And all those outside things that we get in our head about can kind of take a bit of a backseat. So by staying present in your sexual encounters, you can better appreciate the nuances of the physical touch and the physical sensation. And that is going to be a more fulfilling sexual experience than going through the motions, but your head is actually somewhere else. So try to bring your head into where you are. Stop worrying about the things we've already talked about, your body. Stop having a negative inner dialogue. Give being completely present a try and see if it transforms your sexual connection a little bit, because I think it will. Number 5 is a huge one, and that is tell societal shame to fuck the fuck off. Because sexual shame, which is mostly shaped by society and sometimes shaped by people's upbringing, that can really hold us back from fully enjoying ourselves in the bedroom. We are bombarded with confusing, conflicting messages, especially for women. We're told to be sexy, but not too sexy. Embrace your desires, but don't be too forward. So it's no wonder so many of us feel confused or guilty about our own sexuality. But the important thing to remember is these societal pressures do not define your worth or your sexuality. They are just noise. And to fully embrace your sexual self, you've got to tune out that noise and start listening to what you truly want and need. Ask yourself, what makes me feel good? What do I enjoy? These are the questions that should guide your sexual experiences, not the unrealistic standards set by society. And the first step to break free from societal sexual shame is awareness. Start noticing when those self-critical thoughts creep in, like feeling you're not normal because you maybe have a kink that isn't conventional, or feeling like you are inadequate, as we saw by my episode, The Offside Rule of Sex, which was geared toward men and penis owners. So many men sent in the question, does size matter? Because there is a huge feeling of inadequacy amongst men and penis owners, because society has led everyone to believe that the way forward to be good in bed is to have a big dick, and it's all bullshit. So most of the time, all of these thoughts are just leftovers from societal conditioning. They are not facts about you. So once you catch them, challenge them. Remind yourself, sex is natural, it's healthy, it's a beautiful way to connect and enjoy life, and it is not something to feel ashamed of. And this shame isn't your fault, it's something that's been placed on you by society. So remind yourself of that. And cultural influences can also play a big role in shaping how we think about sex. So take some time to reflect on the messages you received growing up and ask yourself which of those still resonate with you and which might be holding you back. And by understanding these influences, you can choose what to keep and what to let go of. I've spoken before about the fact that my primary school was a convent, and it was actually a beautiful school, but there is a lot to be said for religious shame. And I will say I went the other way and completely rebelled against it. And I own that I might not have been so promiscuous in my younger years if I didn't feel like I was rebelling against that. And some other people that I know who also attended the school have gone completely the opposite way and still feel a huge ton of religious shame when it comes to sex, and that is affecting their sexual experiences. But in the end, it's all about embracing your sexuality on your own terms. So let go of the judgments and the cultural limitations and allow yourself to explore what truly makes you feel empowered and fulfilled. And when you do that, you will create a more positive, confident relationship with your sexual self. And if you ever need reminding of that, just come back here, because we hold space for you. There is nothing weird. There is also nothing normal when it comes to sex. So whatever you are leaning into, as long as it is consensual and respectful, there is space for it. And I will always be here to remind you that how you feel sexually is valid, and society is absolutely full of shit. Number 6, work on your sexual communication. So building confidence and communication in your sexual relationships is really going to elevate your experience. You don't need me to say that by this point. It's all I bang on about. How many episodes are we in now? 43, I think. So you're probably sick to death of me talking about communication. But knowing what you like and being able to express those desires clearly to your partner is absolutely going to skyrocket your confidence. That isn't going to be the case for a lot of people just yet, because we were never taught to have those conversations and how to communicate like that. So if talking about sex feels a bit awkward, always try having those conversations outside the bedroom first. Try to find a relaxed setting to just discuss something as simple as your likes and dislikes. Take the pressure off. Make it easy to have these conversations openly. You can just start with questions like, what do you enjoy most during intimacy? Or is there something new you are curious to try? And just keep those conversations going. They don't have to be a huge, heavy thing that you dread having. They can be light, they can be playful, they can be enjoyable, but just start having them. And the communication doesn't end there. We are communicating during sex. And there is power in both verbal and non-verbal communication. Moans, body movements, facial expressions, all great. Simple phrases like, yeah, right there, can guide your partner. And those simple things make things so much better for both of you. But if speaking up still feels intimidating for you, there is a practice exercise that I read about not long ago, which is to have your partner trace a circle on your palm and you tell them what feels good and what doesn't. And this is just a very small, simple exercise to help you get more comfortable with expressing your preferences. And then you can start to translate it into your sexual encounters together. And also what's important is to remember that communication is a two-way street. So also always be open to feedback from your partner and pay attention to their responses, because listening and adjusting based on their cues can boost your sexual confidence when you see it's making a difference for them. And that only makes the experience more enjoyable for the both of you. And Afterwards, also take some time to talk about what you both enjoyed. Yes, focus on the positives, but also use the feedback to guide your future experiences. An ongoing sexual dialogue is only going to deepen your understanding of your and your sexual partner's desires, and that's all going to lead to more satisfying experiences together. So sexual communication, it's a whole thing. It's not just one and done. It's before sex, it's during sex, it's after sex. But once you feel strong in your sexual communication, that is going to be one of the things that enhances your sexual confidence more, because whatever sexual encounter I go into, I know I can talk myself through it. No, I know how to express what I need and what I want. And I also know how to listen and respond to a partner. I believe that's actually what makes, if we're going to have to use the term good or bad lover, they are the things that make someone a good or bad lover. Because if you're not listening or responding to a partner, what are you even doing? Why are you even there? But if you are communicating, you are responding, you are listening, you are attending, even if you aren't sexually compatible in the end, to be able to make that communicative effort makes such a huge fucking difference. And it just means that you can walk into every sexual encounter knowing physically, hey, we may not be compatible, but I do know how to communicate what I am going to need and want from this experience. And that makes a huge fucking difference. So it's probably no surprise of anyone's to know that one of my most important tips in building sexual confidence is to work on your sexual communication. Number 7 is to initiate. And that might come as a bit of a surprise, but taking the lead in a sexual situation can really boost your confidence and almost fake yourself into believing that you are self-assured. I would like you to be self-assured, but listen, sometimes we've got to fake it to make it, unless we're talking about orgasms, which we never fucking fake. But whether you are in a long-term relationship or just getting to know someone new, taking charge can make the experience really exciting. And I think people hold back from initiating because they are afraid of rejection. But rejection is so often about the other person and not about you. And I know it's much easier said than done, but it's so important not to take things personally. But if it feels intimidating, start with small steps, like send a flirty text to your partner to build anticipation. Or even if you are currently engaging in online dating, you don't have to wait around. Make the first move yourself, because being proactive not only empowers you, but it also shows that you value your desires and you aren't afraid to go after them. And that feels good. I honestly don't think I ever really worry about rejection, but that's also because my focus is always on whether I like that other person more than whether they like me. And I think that's become such a huge thing in dating, or even just hookups. People go so heavily into them, worrying immediately what the other person is going to think of them, that they don't even leave themselves the space to consider what they think about that other person. So do try to keep that the focal point when it comes to dating and to hookups. Stop worrying about whether the other person likes you. Do you like them? Are they giving you pleasure? Are they worth your time? Focus on that and just go for it. Listen, if it backfires, in my opinion, it's their fucking loss. But if it doesn't, initiating can feel really fucking sexy and it's going to really build that confidence. So I say, go for it. Number 8 is stop comparing. When it comes to expressing your sexual confidence, authenticity is key. And confidence is not about pretending to be someone you are not. It's about embracing who you truly are and letting that shine through. And as I just said, while it's okay to fake it till you make it, to give yourself a temporary boost. That is not about being dishonest with yourself or others. It's just a tool to help you build the confidence you are working towards. For instance, if you are feeling unsure in a social or an intimate setting, adopting a confident posture or speaking with a bit more assurance can help you project confidence even if you are not feeling it quite internally yet. I don't know if anyone watches Grey's Anatomy, but there's an episode where one character encourages another to adopt this superhero pose before a big moment. And that idea is based on the concept that standing in a powerful, assertive posture can actually help enhance our self-confidence. And it's just a great example of how body language can affect our perceptions. So when I talk about fake it till you make it, that's the kind of thing I mean, because as you practice that over time, it can actually help transform those temporary feelings into genuine self-assurance. However, if you are practicing this, remember that the goal is not to mold yourself into someone else's idea of confidence, but to amplify your own. And that confidence, as we've spoken about, comes from a deep understanding and acceptance of yourself, knowing your strengths and what might be perceived as your weaknesses, and just being comfortable in your own skin. So if you feel like you are pushing too far outside your comfort zone or pretending to be someone you're not, it's important to listen to your inner voice and correct that. And that can so often come from comparing ourselves to others. In a world that constantly bombards us with images of what we should look like or how we should behave, it's so easy to fall into the trap of comparison, because we might see another woman who is skinnier or has longer hair or seems more outgoing and feel a twinge of self-doubt because we've been taught that there's one way or one look that's the right way or the right look. But this comparison is the thief of joy and the thief of confidence. So the moment you start comparing yourself to others, you begin to lose sight of your own unique strengths and qualities. So instead of focusing on what you think you lack, celebrate what makes you unique. Maybe that's your sense of humor. Maybe it's your deep empathy for others. Maybe it's a talent that you shine through in your own way. These are all the qualities that make you, you, and they are more valuable than any physical attribute that society might be getting us to compete against each other with. So when you catch yourself comparing, take a step back and once again redirect that energy towards self-affirmation. Write down things that you like about yourself, whether it's kindness or creativity, and remind yourself of these qualities regularly. And then over time, you'll find that you're not faking that confidence anymore, but you are genuinely feeling it. Because ultimately, the foundation of true confidence is authenticity. It's about knowing who you are, what you stand for, and what makes you feel good. And that isn't just important in how you present yourself to the world, but also in how you approach your sexuality. Because if you're not comfortable with something, it's okay to say no. If you are unsure about a situation, it's okay to take a step back and reassess. Your comfort, your values, your boundaries always have to come first. And you need to have the confidence to be able to voice those in a sexual encounter. And confidence doesn't mean being the loudest or the most daring person in the room. It means being comfortable with who you are and not feeling the need to apologize for it. So whether you are initiating a flirtatious conversation or setting boundaries in an intimate situation, do it all with a sense of self-assuredness that comes from knowing and loving yourself. And by staying true to yourself and avoiding these pitfalls of comparison, you are not just building a facade of confidence, you are cultivating a deep, genuine self-assurance that is going to carry you through all aspects of your life, especially your sexual experiences. Remember, the most attractive thing you can be is yourself. So embrace that fully and stop comparing. Number 9, educate yourself. As I said at the beginning of this episode, it's one of the things that contributes to my confidence the most. Exploring and educating yourself about human sexuality can really boost your confidence, and it also makes your sexual experiences more fulfilling. You know, there's so many great resources, books like Come As You Are by Emily Nagoski or The Big O by Aloni. They really offer some eye-opening insights into sexual pleasure and different techniques. Learning about various sexual positions, methods, and yes, anatomy can make a big difference. For instance, understanding how to stimulate the clitoris or knowing the role of the prostate. This can all open up new possibilities for pleasure, and knowing those details can help you feel more confident and less anxious, and that's going to make all of your sexual encounters more enjoyable. And this knowledge also makes communication with a partner a lot easier. When you are familiar with different techniques, when you understand both your own body and the makeup of your partner's body, you can express your desires more clearly and guide each other to better experiences. And learning about sexuality is an ongoing journey. So keep exploring new ideas and staying curious, whether that's through books or just conversations with your friends, your partners, and continuous learning not only enhances your confidence, but it strengthens your connections with people, with your partners, and it leads to more satisfying and enjoyable sexual relationships. It contributes to enthusiasm, and the more informed you are across the board, the more of an open mind you have, the more explorative you are willing to be. So keep educating yourself, and you will be amazed at how much it can enrich your sex life. Number 10, let go of the idea of perfection. Setting unrealistic expectations for ourselves can have a significant impact on our confidence, particularly in sexual settings. When we hold ourselves to these unattainable standards, we only set ourselves up for disappointment, frustration, and actually a diminished sense of self-worth. And that is especially true when it comes to sexual confidence, because the idea that we have to be flawless in bed can create immense pressure. And that usually leads to feelings of inadequacy and anxiety. And the first step to overcoming this is to release the notion that you need to be perfect. Perfection is an illusion. It is a myth that we often chase, but we can't ever retain it. And in the context of sexuality, striving for perfection can prevent us from being fully present in the moment. And that just robs us of the joy and connection that comes from genuine, uninhibited intimacy. Instead of focusing on what you think you should be, focus on being authentic, present, and open to the experience. And it's very important to address any beliefs that your partner expects you to be perfect, because this kind of assumption can be really damaging to your sexual self-esteem and can increase anxiety around intimacy. A study has actually shown that when people believe their partners have unrealistic expectations of them, it does lead to lower sexual self-esteem and heightened sexual anxiety. And that anxiety can manifest in various ways, such as difficulty relaxing, trouble communicating desires, and even avoiding sexual encounters together. So communicate with your partner to help alleviate those pressures. Discuss your concerns and any anxieties that you might have about sexual performance or expectations, because most likely your partner doesn't expect perfection. They simply want to connect with you and share intimacy and enjoy the moment together. If they do expect perfection, it's giving delulu, because perfection doesn't exist. So it's time to say bye-bye. But if you do discuss these issues openly, you can set realistic expectations and focus on building a sexual relationship based on mutual understanding and enjoyment rather than unattainable standards. Remember that imperfections are a natural part of life and, by extension, a natural part of sex. No one is perfect, and no sexual encounter is flawless. Sometimes things don't go as planned, and that's okay. Sometimes it's not perfect. Sometimes it's not even slightly good, and that's all okay. What's more important is the connections we share and our ability to laugh, to learn, and to grow through all of our experiences. And actually, by embracing imperfections, as I said, it humanizes things. You can reduce the pressure on yourself and your sexual partners. And all of that just leads to a more relaxed experience. And as we know, when we are at our most relaxed, that's when we have our most enjoyable sexual encounters. So instead of viewing sex as a performance, which I hope if you listen to this podcast, you bloody don't anyway, but instead of viewing it as a performance where you think you have to excel, just think of it as a connection where everyone is learning and exploring and enjoying each other. And when you let go of the need to be perfect, you open the door to more fulfilling sexual relationships. It allows you to be more present. It allows you to focus on what feels good in the moment. Ultimately, our goal should always be connection, not perfection. And sexual satisfaction comes from being emotionally and physically connected with our sexual partners, not from executing moves flawlessly. And if we prioritize connection, we have a safe space for all of us to express our desires, to experiment, to explore, and to enjoy each other without the pressure of these unrealistic expectations that we probably learned from shit porn. So let go of perfectionism in the bedroom and in life. I promise you, it is incredibly liberating, and it frees you from the shackles of all this unrealistic societal bullshit, and it allows us to experience intimacy in authentic, enjoyable ways. So focus on connection, communication, and authenticity. And this is how we build stronger, more confident senses of self, and as a result, how we have better sexual relationships. Well, they are my thoughts for today in terms of building sexual confidence. If you feel like yours is currently at a lull, I will say, unless you sit on the asexual or aromantic spectrum, sexual intimacy is one of the most powerful ways to deepen the connection between you and your partner or partners. It allows you to express love, desire, affection in a way that words alone often can't. However, a lack of confidence in the bedroom can act as a barrier, and that can prevent you from fully engaging in these intimate moments. And that honestly just diminishes your own satisfaction. But as you build your confidence, you'll probably notice your sexual experiences becoming way more enjoyable, because when you feel good about yourself, intimacy feels more fulfilling. And please remember that confidence in bed isn't just about feeling good about your body or your sexual skills. It's about being comfortable to express your desires, to communicate openly, and to fully participate in the experience. And confidence isn't just a quick fix. It will keep growing and it will keep making each experience better. And it's a powerful personal celebration of who you are and what you enjoy. I mean, listen, even the best drivers hit the occasional pothole, so it's not going to make every experience perfect. But I will say this, it'll sure make you better equipped to handle the bumps along the way. Friends, lovers, listeners, there you have it, a crash course in sexual confidence. I also want to say a big thank you so much to everyone who sent in questions for this episode topic. As per, I've talked far too much and far too long, but do not fear, those answers will be coming your way in just a few days' time for your Sunday spooning session to save this episode being longer than Titanic. But for today, I will leave you with the reminder that confidence in bed is not about being some kind of tantric ninja or having moves straight out of a rom-com. It's about knowing what you like, being open to trying new things, and not taking yourself too seriously. It isn't about being perfect. It's about embracing yourself and being willing to share all of that with your partner. It's about communicating. It's about listening. And if things ever go a bit off-piste, you know my answer. Just laugh it off and go again. There is so much freedom in imperfection and in humanizing sexual experiences. I highly doubt every position in the Kama Sutra worked out perfectly first time. And trust me, even porn stars, the pros, have to do multiple takes to get it going on sometimes because sex is silly as fuck. And I promise you all, confidence looks good on you. And you deserve it. But I also know it is a journey. So be patient with yourself. It takes time to let go of everything we've been taught and start again. Remember, small steps make a big difference. Celebrate each little victory along the way. But today, maybe just challenge yourself to look in the mirror and smile. To say something kind to your body. To communicate something to your lover, to masturbate all fucking day. Just take a moment to own your sexual worth. You are a sexual being and you are deserving of giving and receiving pleasure in all of the ways that feel good for you. You've got this and I've got you too. I will be back on Sunday to answer your questions, so tune back in for your Sunday morning spoon. But for now, thanks for coming. Thank you for tuning in to Sex on the Peach today, and I hope that you enjoyed this week's episode. You can find and follow me on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at Sex on the Peach Cast, and you can also get in touch with me at sexonthepeachcast@gmail.com. Please do continue to like, share, subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen to your podcasts, and I'll see you next week. Love.